Hey everyone, it's Tracy Matthews of Flourish and Thrive Academy, and I'm really excited here today to have my guest, Andreea Ayers, here joining me to talk about 6 things you need to know before pitching press. Andreea, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on, Tracy. I'm so excited to be here.
Before we get started, I'm just going to do a brief introduction of you for those of my listeners who haven't heard of you before, which I'm sure a lot of them have. But Andreea is a CEO and founder of Get Media Happy, the go-to source for top editors and bloggers seeking product-based news stories from media-ready entrepreneurs. Her mission is to make PR less intimidating for those entrepreneurs who can't afford a monthly retainer fee for a professional PR firm. Andreea opened her first product-based business selling inspirational t-shirts in 2006. Despite knowing little about the industry, she went on to sell over 20,000 t-shirts in over 300 stores in the United States and around the world, with 6-figure sales in just 18 months after launching. Wow, that is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it was definitely a steep learning curve, to say the least.
Oh my God, incredible. So in more recent years, Andreea has focused on helping hundreds of entrepreneurs secure media coverage through one-on-one consulting and coaching over at our website, Launch Grow Joy. Andreea's products have been featured in over 200 magazines, newspapers, and TV shows, including ABC, NBC, Fox, The Bonnie Hunt Show, Redbook, The Chicago Tribune, USA Magazine, Ladies Home Journal, Self, Shape, The Nest, and many more. Her tees have been worn by celebrities including Tori Spelling, Ed Begley, Denise Richards, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Sarah Michelle Gellar. Wow, I could hardly even get all of that off my tongue because that's so impressive.
Thanks.
Anyway, I'm so excited to dive in today, and I was really excited for this interview, mainly because I think you and I have the same philosophy on pitching PR. We really believe in the possibility and potential and the impact that it makes for designers and makers who actually do their own PR. I know that you did your own PR, as I read in your bio, but also when I had my wholesale jewelry company, I was doing all of my own PR as well. So I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to share everything I've learned over the last few years too.
Woot! All right, well, let's get started. So my first question for you is, what do you need to have ready before you start pitching press?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's funny because I always feel like I tell people to, even if they're not 100% ready, to go for it anyway. But I think with PR, it's one of those things where you do kind of have to be almost 100% ready before you pitch, because you really only do get that first impression. So the first thing you have to have is a website, because as soon as a magazine editor or an influential blogger, as soon as they hear about you, the first thing they want to do is go visit your website. And it has to be really professional looking with really great photos and product descriptions. And I've actually spoken with a lot of editors who, if the product photos on the website and if the website doesn't look maybe professional or it doesn't reflect the interests of their readers, they're probably going to skip right over it. So you do have to have your website ready in really good shape. Make sure you can take orders on your website so that way the readers can actually buy from you, which is the whole point of PR, right? And then you also need to have your product ready to ship, because what happens a lot of times is magazine editors will say, oh, I love those earrings, or I love that bracelet. Can you send me a sample? We want to shoot it on our model for our cover, or we want to, test it out or shoot it with a whole bunch of other products. So you do need to have product ready to ship, usually within 24 hours. So it is kind of a fast turnaround. And sometimes instead of actual product, they will ask for high resolution photos. So you'll have to have your product ready and a couple of different options for high resolution photos, and that includes photos on like a white or transparent background, or lifestyle photos, and so on. But you have to have those 3 things ready, because they're not going to wait for you. They work on such a tight deadline. And if you say, oh, my earrings or my new line will be available in 3 weeks, can I send it to you then? It really is way too late, because in 3 weeks they would have moved to the next issue, to a different story. So you have to have your website, product photos, and the actual product ready to go before you pitch.
So I know I used to have like a separate set of samples that I reserved or set aside just for press. It wasn't my entire sample line, but it was the most like press ready, kind of like the best pieces for features. Did you do the same thing?
Yeah, and that's an awesome idea. Excellent idea. So definitely. And some people wonder, especially if they have more expensive jewelry, they might think, well, my piece is $500. I can't afford to send out so many. And in that case, it's totally okay. You just need to kind of negotiate beforehand to get your samples returned. And a lot of magazine editors will honor that and return your samples. So it's a good idea to set aside some samples for press ready to go. And if you need them back, ask for that before you actually send them out.
Right. So like having some sort of policy in place or something before you send the samples. Great idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit, what are editorial calendars and how do they work?
Yeah, so editorial calendars are basically what magazine editors are working on every single month. And they usually have themes throughout the year. And usually, every February, they'll do a Valentine's Day product roundup. In December or November, they'll do a holiday gift guide. In May, they have like a Mother's Day gift. Spring, obviously, March is all about spring fashion. September is all about fall fashion. So every single month, they have these themes that they work around. So an editorial calendar is basically a copy of what they'll be working on every single month. And some magazines, for some of them, it's really detailed, like they'll tell you almost all of the stories they're working on, and others will have a more general theme. Like, for example, Oprah magazines, will say the organizing issue or the beauty issue or something like that. So the editorial calendars are basically designed for their advertisers. And that way, some advertisers, let's say for spring fashion, they might only want to advertise in that issue and so on. But as on the editorial side, because you are going to be pitching for editorial and not for advertising, you can use those editorial calendars to plan your pitches around that. And usually what happens is that magazines, especially the large national ones, they work about 3 to 6 months in advance. So let's say you want to get your products featured in their holiday gift guide. You want to start pitching in June, July, and August, because anything after that is going to be too late. So if you're trying to approach them in October for their December issue, way too late. In October, they're probably working on their March issue or so. So editorial calendars, basically tell you the theme of that issue, and then they also tell you the deadline for advertisers, which is really great to know. But what you have to know is that your deadline to pitch, and I know this might get a little complicated, but is about a month ahead of the advertising deadline.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, so keep that in mind as well, because they usually know that advertisers scramble, get stuff at the last minute, so they build in a little bit more time for that. That way they can just put it in, and they don't have to do any research on that. So usually your deadline is going to be about 30 days before the editorial calendar deadline that you see for the advertisers. And the best way to get access to editorial calendars, it's actually pretty easy. You can just Google the name of the magazine and the word editorial calendar or media kit. Oftentimes the editorial calendars are found inside the media kit, and pretty much it'll come up right there. And if you don't find it that way, you can also go to the magazine's website and look for the advertising section. So it might say for advertisers or advertising or media kit and so on. And sometimes you'll have to enter your name and email address and your company name to get access to it, and they'll email it to you. But oftentimes you can just really get it by going to Google and typing in those keywords. And those, I print those out for the magazines that I wanted to be in, and then I schedule those and backdate in my calendar to make sure that I'm pitching the right products at the right time, because I think PR is really all about pitching the right product at the right time.
Yeah, it's all about timing. I mean, it's like sometimes you're like, oh, I'm working 3 months in advance, but if you miss it even by like a couple of days, like you don't even have a chance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we have our editorial calendar. We're kind of planning our pitches. We're getting ideas ready. So what's the best way to contact an editor? And then what do you say once you do that?
Yeah, great question. So the best way, and I've interviewed so many editors and talked to quite a few of them, they love email. I mean, they don't love email because they get so much, but they prefer to be pitched by email. If you try phone or even sending an unsolicited package, it's most likely not going to get opened, or your phone call is not even going to get answered. But if you send them an email, they sort of can print it out, they can forward it to their colleagues, maybe coworkers that they're working on with the story. They can go directly to your website. So it's really pretty much the easiest way for them to do it. And I've also found that a lot of editors, let's say you pitch something and it's not a good fit for this issue, they'll probably put it in like, a later folder for a different issue. So if you send them the email, it just makes it super easy for them to file it away, to share it with colleagues, to print it out, and to really see what your products are about. And in terms of what to say to them, I think this is really, really important, because when people think about publicity, often they think about press releases. So someone might just want to write a press release and mass email a press release. And that's definitely the wrong way to go. It's not really going to get you anywhere. But what really works is if you get really specific and you're emailing an editor and you say something like, hey, Linda, I know you're probably right now working on getting together products for your holiday gift guide in your December issue, and I'd love to share with you our product, and I think it makes a great gift and your readers are going to love it because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And this is where you're going to talk about your benefits. But if you can be really specific about what you're pitching, why you're pitching it, what issue and what story you're pitching it for, it automatically lets them know that this is where you want your product featured. And that makes their work so much easier. And I can tell you, I get pitched all the time. And someone will just say, hey, Andreea, here's our latest press release. And then I think, okay, what do you want me to do with that? Do you want me to interview this person? Do you want me to request a product sample? Do you want me to do a blog post about them? So if you can ask them what it is you want them to do, and in this case is to feature or review your product, it just makes it so much easier for them because they don't have to, to guess. So I usually let everybody know that they have to get really specific about the issue they want to be in. If you're familiar with the section, the section you want to be in, and what story you can see your products being a part of. And that definitely goes a long way.
That's so much great information. Like the more specific you can get, the easier it makes their lives. And that's, from what I've heard, I mean, even when I was pitching years ago, and from what I've heard from everyone, it just seems like editors keep getting busier and busier and busier, and it's not slowing down. So like the easier you can make it, the better for them.
They do, yes. I told.
Mm-hmm. So, what's your thought on including photos in your pitch? Like there's this controversy, maybe photos, no photos, or links or no links. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think you should include photos. And it's actually, I'm glad you asked that, because when I interviewed all of these editors, so many of them said that one of their pet peeves was when people don't include photos, because they can open your email. If they can see the photo, they'll really know right away if it's a good product for, if it's a good fit or not. So you want to make sure to include photos as in line with the body of your email and not as an attachment. If you just send it as an attachment, they're definitely not going to open it, and it might even get sent to the spam folder. So I know a lot of people are probably wondering, should I send one photo? How many photos? Mm-hmm. I usually stick with just sending one photo, but if you feel like maybe you have a collection, of jewelry and you want to send everything, I think it's a good idea to use a tool like PicMonkey and create a collage. So you can put all of your photos in one collage, create one image that has all of your different products, and then send that in the body of your email. But definitely send the photo. And some editors even mentioned that they would love video. So I actually haven't personally tried it, but I'm just imagining if you had a necklace or something that you wanted to pitch and you did a quick video personalized to that specific editor, I could see how that might go a long way too. I haven't tried it, but quite a few editors were asking for it. So
wow, that's a great idea. I've never heard of that before, but it makes perfect sense because people are now like Instagramming videos of their jewelry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that great advice, and I love your idea about doing the collage, because that way they can see multiple pieces in just one photo, and it kind of gives them a better, range of your products. So maybe keeps you top of mind for something later on if it's not a right fit right away. So let's say the editor loves your stuff. They end up like placing you in one of their books. What do you do after you get the press mention to get even more sales from it? Because I know you're a master at this.
Yeah. So there's definitely, you're going to get a whole bunch of sales coming in right away without you really doing anything after that. Your piece has been featured, but there are a couple of things that you want to do afterwards when it comes to letting everybody know that your products were featured. So one thing you want to do is you definitely want to put that on the homepage of your website, especially if it was a huge media mention. You want to let everybody know right away that your products were featured. And then you also want to have a separate press page, or I used to call it in the news, where I used to put all of my press and media mentions on that one specific page. And that way it lets people know that other people love your products, they love your jewelry, it's being seen, it's being recognized. And what that does when someone comes to your website is that it automatically helps to build trust. So when they're seeing all of these different press mentions, maybe they've never heard of your company and they just came across it, for the first time. If they're seeing all of these different press mentions, they're automatically going to trust you. And I think trust is huge when it comes to online sales, because it's not like when you walk in a store, like you really are trusting that someone is going to send you what they're advertising or what you're buying. So having all of these press mentions is definitely a great way to gain trust right away. And then the other things I like to do is to email, send it out via email to all your newsletter subscribers. Also share it on social media and tag the magazine or tag the editor and publicly thank them for featuring you. I think that goes a really long way. In addition to sending them a thank you email right after you see your feature, but thanking them publicly is really a really nice gesture. And then you can also email your retailers. So if you have retailers that you sell your jewelry to, it's a really great idea to say, hey, we were just featured in Vogue magazine this month. Would you like a copy of the feature? And oftentimes they'll get a copy of that laminated and put it right next to your products on the shelves. And again, that's going to help to increase their sales as well. So there's sort of this domino effect that happens after your products get featured, and you can continue to use this press features to get trust and to get even more sales afterwards.
Such great ideas. I love that. One quick question, follow up to thanking the editors publicly. Do you think that sending them a piece of whatever was featured is a good idea? I mean, I know sometimes if your jewelry is really expensive, that might not really be possible, but are there other ways that you think you can thank the editors for featuring you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you want to send them product or a little thank you gift afterwards, that is going to go a long way too. Just let them know it's coming so that way it doesn't get lost in the mailroom, especially at some of those larger magazines. A thank you note is great too. Just really, they love being acknowledged publicly. So if you can share your story in their magazine or a link to their magazine, they really love that as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. So what are some things you should never do when it comes to publicity?
Yeah, so one thing you should never do is to act like the editor owes you something. And what I mean by that is sometimes, they are going to be interested in your jewelry. They're going to ask you for samples. And then for some reason, your samples don't make it in the magazine. And that does happen sometimes because let's say they have room on their page, for 2 pairs of earrings and they received 50. They're going to look at all of those samples, narrow down, see what fits best with all of the other things they're featuring on that page. So if you're expecting to be featured just because you send a sample, that's definitely the wrong way to go. And I used to do this in the beginning with my t-shirts where I thought, well, if you didn't feature my t-shirts, then I want my t-shirts back. And, I would get really upset a little bit. And then I realized that my product is just one of many and that they sort of did me a favor in a way by letting me send them their products and actually considering them. And when you're expecting them to feature your products or to write about them, just because they requested a sample, that's sort of overstepping your bounds. And you don't want to get to the point where you're emailing them all the time and saying, when is it going to be featured? When is it going to be featured? And I know it's really easy to do that, especially because you're so invested in your product. So that's something you should never do. And then the other thing is that if someone tells you, okay, so we're going to feature your necklace in our March issue, you should never ask them to send you a copy. It's actually your job to go buy the copy or download it if it's a digital edition or something like that. But you want to make their job as easy as possible. And their job is not to send you the magazine after your products were featured. That's really your job. So you want to make it super easy for them to do their job, but also to it's your responsibility to get a copy of that press mention. And oftentimes the great thing is that oftentimes they'll actually send it to you without you asking. But if they happen to not do that, then you should go and search for that magazine yourself.
Yeah, in both cases that's happened for me. They've either sent the publication or I've had to go find it. So usually I'm so excited that as soon as it's on the newsstand, I'm like buying it so I can like find it, So has this ever happened to you? Because a couple of times, like I got, they call for the details of the piece and the piece got shot, but then it gets cut at the last minute. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh my God, yes. And it actually, it was devastating. It happened with InStyle magazine. And it was going to be like my first big press mention, and they said, okay, we love your t-shirts, we're going to feature them in our July issue. And this was back in like July 2008 or something like that, so it was a while ago. And I remember I was and they even actually had their intern call me to verify. They're like, okay, we're going to be on page whatever, are these the right details? She even sent me a copy of that page. She said, we put it together, here's what it's going to look like, we're excited for you to see it. So I remember being in New York at the time. I was in Times Square, and that's back when the big Virgin megastore was still there. I don't know if it's still there now, but I remember it was in June, like late June, when the issue was going to go on newsstands. I ran to the Virgin megastore. I flipped through all of the pages, and I'm like, my t-shirts are not in here. So I'm like, maybe I missed them. So I flipped again through the magazine, and they just were not there. So and then I emailed her and I said, just curious, are you going to save them for your next issue? And she said, I'm so sorry, we had to cut it last minute. We'll keep it in mind for future stories. So it definitely did happen, and I was so sure. I mean, they sent me the actual page of, the printed, not the printed paper, like a PDF of the page that my t-shirts are going to be in. So yeah, it was a little sad, but it happens. Such
a bummer when that happens. So it's like you never, it's always until like it hits the newsstand that you don't quite know.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow, such amazing tips. Thank you so much, Andreea. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about Get Media Happy. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, sure. So Get Media Happy is a service that I created, and it's something that I actually wish I had when I had my t-shirt line, and then later when I had my soap line, because it takes so much time to do research and to look at all of these editorial calendars and find out who's working on what and what their deadline is and what their email address is. Really, it can take hours a day to just find this information. So I launched Get Media Happy. Basically, what I do, my assistant and I, each month at the beginning of the month, we email hundreds and sometimes thousands of magazine editors, and we say, hey, we'd love to help you find some products for your next issue. Can you let us know what product you're working on and what your deadline is, and anything else that we need to know? So a lot of editors will write back and they'll say, oh yes, I'm actually looking for, an eco-friendly bracelet this month, and my deadline is March 2nd. Here's my address, or here's my email address. So what we do with all of those is we take them and we put them into the Get Media Happy members area, and we let members know the name of the editor, exactly what they're looking for. We give them a little bit more information about the magazine. So we give them their website, the circulation, so they can really know if it's something worth pursuing or not. And then we give them the contact information and the deadline. And oftentimes that comes with tips with what to say, how to approach them. And it just makes it so much easier, and it saves people so much time from having to do all of this research and trying to find out who the right person is. And it includes a lot of fashion and jewelry opportunities, but then it also has other types of products as well. But yeah, it's a really, really great tool, and members that are using it, so many of them are seeing great results, and it's such a great way to just save time, not have to hire a PR firm, but also get your products featured and get seen. So it's I'm super proud of it. It's just so much fun, and anytime one of the Get Media Happy members gets featured in the press, I get so excited. I share it with everyone. I'm like, yay, you know, another success story. So it's just been so fun, and I think most importantly, really helpful. And it makes PR a lot more affordable for jewelry designers and makers.
Right. Well, I know a couple of the members, or many of the members of our community, have joined and are seeing really good results. And if I had a service like that back in the day, it would have saved me and my PR intern so much time, because like back then it was harder to get information. Like I would say, like, you know, early 2000s when I was like doing a lot of this on my own. And this is like, the service you're offering is amazing. So I highly recommend that all of you check it out. There's going to be some links below this video, so you can check that out. Andreea, thank you so much for being here and for all this wise advice on how to pitch PR.
Oh, thanks so much, Tracy, for having me on. I really hope your readers or listeners are getting a lot of info out of this. So yeah, thanks so much for letting me be on today.
My pleasure. We'll see you soon.
See you.